Good morning all of you. I am Dr.V.Subhashini, HOD of Zoology, KBN College, Vijayawada. Dear students, today we are going to deal with modern synthetic theory of evolution, which is otherwise called as NeoDarwinism. First of all, we should know what is evolution. So it is the process by which different kinds of living organisms are thought to have been developed and diversified from earlier forms during the history of the earth. Look at this figure. We can see how the ape has transformed into the modern man. And of all the theories of evolution, the Darwin's theory of evolution is the most accepted one, which is based on natural selection. Darwin has visited the Galapagos Islands for 5 years and he has observed the finch birds in these islands. And he concluded that the beaks of these birds are modified depending upon the food available in those islands and depending on their feeding habits. So he has proposed the theory of evolution for the first time, which is accepted by most of the scientists. And this is based on struggle for existence, survival of the fittest, variations and natural selection. So, but we have to know what led to the proposal of modern synthetic theory of evolution. Though Darwin realized that variations are significant in the process of evolution, he failed to explain the mechanism by which these variations could appear. Hence, neo-Darwinists like Dobzhansky, Ernest Mayr, Fisher, Sewell Wright, Huxley and J.B.S. Haldane and G.L. Stebbins has proposed the modern synthetic theory of evolution. And this is proposed after Weismann's germplasm theory, De Vries mutation theory and Mendel's laws of inheritance. So basing on these three theories, the modern synthetic theory of evolution has been proposed. And this theory proves that both mutations and natural selection are important for evolution. Look at these figures. Here we can observe the neo-Darwinists like Gregor Mendel, Dobzhansky, Hugo De Vries, J.B.S. Haldane, Sewell Wright and Ernest Mayr. Now we will see about the basic factors which are involved in the process of organic evolution. There are 5 basic factors. They are gene mutations, chromosomal mutations, genetic recombination, natural selection and reproductive isolation. Of these 5 factors, the first 3 factors are necessary for providing genetic variability and the last 2 will give the direction to the evolutionary process. In addition to these basic factors, accessory forces are also responsible for evolution. And what are these accessory forces? They are migration, hybridization and genetic drift. So now we will see about the first basic factor, that is the gene mutation. So what are gene mutations? These are nothing but the changes in chemical structure of a gene are called gene mutations or point mutations. And most of these gene mutations are harmful, but occasionally they may provide a new phenotype that has a selective advantage over other individuals in a population. Suppose these phenotypes or the frequency of mutant alleles will increase generation after generation, then it leads to microevolution. For example, if you see the antibiotic resistance in bacteria, and if this mutational pressure is extreme, the original gene may be completely suppressed and it may lead to the evolution of new species. Coming to the next point or the next basic factor, the chromosomal mutations. These will occur due to changes in the structure of the chromosomes and also the number of the chromosomes. See, the structure of the chromosomes will change depending on a number of processes such as addition, deletion, duplication, inversion and translocation. Now we will learn what happens in addition, deletion, etc. So deletion means what? The breakdown of a part of the chromosome is called as deletion. And duplication, if a bit of the chromosome is added to another chromosome, then it is called as duplication. And translocation, if the bit is transferred to another chromosome, it is called as translocation. Inversion, if a part of the chromosome breaks and again gets reunited in an inverted manner or reverse manner, it is called as inversion. And the effects of the chromosomal mutations are equally significant as gene mutations, causing microevolution. The third basic factor is the genetic recombination. You know what are recombinations? These generally occur in sexually reproducing organisms, and they occur due to crossing over of the chromosomes, or you can say that reshuffling of already existing genetic material in an individual is called recombination. And such recombinations will bring genetic variability among the individuals of the same species, thus contributing to the occurrence of heritable variations. Next, going to the fourth basic factor, which is the driving force of evolution, that is the natural selection. This natural selection selects the organisms with better longevity, reproductive fitness, competitive ability, cooperative tendency and resistance to parasites and diseases. The organisms having characters selected by nature survive and the other organisms will perish. Genetically speaking, natural selection favors some genetic changes and transmits them into the gene pool of next generation. Coming to the last, here you can see the process of natural selection. See, this is the ancestral one, and which has given rise to three types depending upon the mutations. So mutation creates variation, and in the first generation the unfavorable mutation is not selected, the other two mutations are selected, and in one of them also in the second generation the mutations are not selected, and in the remaining one where the natural selection selects or favors the mutations, they are selected and carried to the next generations, and by reproduction they enter into the next generations. The last factor is the reproductive isolation. So you know, reproductive isolation or isolation is the separation of organisms from one and another, and isolation of organisms of a species into several populations or groups under physiological or geographical barriers is supposed to be one of the most significant factors of evolution. And reproductive isolation is the most effective one, as it does not allow interbreeding between separated organisms. And in the course of time, isolated organisms may emerge out as a new species differing from each other. Here you can see the example of reproductive isolation, where the rabbits are separated by a geographical barrier, namely the river. So when they are separated, the separated organisms have developed a different color from the original rabbits, and thus they evolved into a new species. Now we will deal about the accessory forces of evolution, which are migration, hybridization and genetic drift. Students, you know migration is of two types. One is immigration, where the movement of new organisms into the population. So this helps in changing the gene pool of the population, and the change in gene pool triggers the evolution of new species within the population by various processes. Similarly, emigration, when some of the organisms move outward from a habitat. So the gene pool loses some of the genes. In both these cases, the forces of evolution will act. Now, the second accessory factor is hybridization, which plays an important role in inducing variations in the immediate next generation. And new stable and independent variations which are brought by inbreeding will be selected by nature, which helps in the process of evolution. Polyploidy is a common method of evolution. Now the genetic drift. What is this genetic drift? The change in the frequency of gene that occurs merely by chance and not by selection in small populations only is called as the genetic drift. And this was proposed by Sewell-Wright. Hence this is also called Sewell-Wright effect. Genetic drift leads to the fixation or the loss of certain genes regardless of their adaptive value. Genetic drift directs the evolution in a population in an unpredictable manner. For example, see, in a population, if only one individual is phenotypically recessive and by accident the death of this organism occurs before reproduction, it results in the elimination of that allele from the population. And the examples of genetic drifts are founder effect and bottleneck effect. See here, the Sewell-Wright effect. Suppose these are the beetles which are of two colors. One is a green color and the other one is brown color. The brown color beetles cannot be seen as they are merged in the color of the trunk. The predator bird now eats only the green color beetles, thus resulting in the increase of brown gene frequency. And depending upon this modern synthetic theory of evolution, certain laws are also framed by certain scientists. One is the Cope's law. According to him, organisms have a tendency towards increase in size during the process of evolution. This you can observe in the evolution of the horse, where the size of the horse has increased. The next law is Dollo's law, and according to this, evolution is usually an irreversible process. Students, I think you have understood the modern synthetic theory of evolution. Thank you all of you.